you look at that, at the board of directors, you look at, the leadership team, and to see so many women up there makes me very proud and happy.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Simply Trade podcast, and so glad to have you all back. It's been really hot here and all over the U.S., and so, oh, by the way, the weather's also pretty hot. What I meant by hot is all the crazy tariff stuff and everything going on. Today is August the 8th, and so as you may know, it's been a very, very busy week in trade and in customs. Policy and just everything, really. It's just been one of those weeks. For a good recap, you can always listen to Annick's episode. She had earlier this week, she had Jen Diaz on there, which of course Jen is never a loss of words, and so she always has really good information. But also, we also had on the Friday show, we also had Cindy Allen, of course, and she breaks down quite a few things. So for more details on that, tune into that and listen in and see what you may get out of that. For this episode, as you all know, Andy and I like to have guests come in and just talk about maybe how they're dealing with, or how their clients are dealing with, or both, are dealing with any of these trade changes and just policy and information and stuff like that. Unfortunately, Andy may be having either technical problems, or he is probably started the weekend early, so he may drop in or not. I don't know. So he's not here. The other thing I wanted to do, and just to make sure everybody listens, and I just wanted to make sure that I said this, and I wanted to just thank and just make everybody aware. Just behind the scenes, the person that puts all of this together is my co-producer. Her name is Mara Marquez. Great kid, great producer. This is literally her last show. I'm really sad to see her go, but we don't keep anybody from growing when they want to do something bigger, better. So she's off to Europe, in fact, for maybe a year or so to follow a dream of hers that she's been wanting to do. But I just want to make sure that we mention this on the show and thank her. For sure, myself personally, I mean, she has been a big help for me. Without her, the shows wouldn't come out as quickly. So fingers crossed, let's see what I do. Hopefully I don't mess things up. But this is literally going to be her last show that she's going to edit and produce. But thank you, Mara, from everybody at Simply Trade and, of course, Global Training Center. So let's shift now to our guest. Last week we were the Global Training Center and the podcast. We were at the GTE conference over in Oklahoma City, and we connected with quite a few folks. I reconnected per se. I've met her a few times because of NCBFAA, but we got to talking. I said, I think I need you on my show. We even flew back on the same plane by coincidence, leaving Oklahoma City. But so I have on the show Kristi App. She is, and she's got a really long resume, but I'm just going to tell you all real quick. She is from J.W. Allen, and we're going to have her talk a little bit about that. But she is also current vice president of the NCBFAA board of directors. And so a nice little future here coming up for her as well. But let me just stop there, and then you can see her LinkedIn profile here in the show notes. Just go ahead and check that. But other than that, Kristi, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on the podcast and chatting with us and see where this episode takes us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit. Let's start with your how just your current bio and history. Tell me a little bit more about JW. I did a little digging, and like I said, I kind of suspected that this was the case. But can you tell us a little bit about the history of JW and how you and your family got involved in this?
Sure. So actually, it's fitting that we're doing this podcast today because today is JW Allen's 93rd anniversary. We were formed on August 8th, 1932. So we've been around quite a while, headquartered here in New Orleans. I came into the business via my father. So my father went to work for JW Allen in 1963. Eventually, started at the bottom, worked his way up, and then eventually bought the company. I joined the company after college. My degree is actually in biology. I had no plans to come into trade or transportation, but sometimes this industry just sucks you in. But again, so I started at the company. My dad is incredibly old school, so it was definitely a work your way up from the bottom. And started out working in exports, moving frozen poultry out of the U.S. into Latin America. And then eventually other markets, and moved into chemicals on the export side. Eventually worked my way up and started taking on a business development role. And then at one point as well, thought it'd be a great idea to get my customs broker's license. So internally started studying for that, passed it. Wanted to get my sort of chop sweat, for lack of a better word, in that. So work for a while doing some entries and for some accounts on our import side. And then ultimately have now moved up as chief operating officer and running the company with my great coworker, Jerry Becknell.
Nice. Yeah. So again, I've always heard, how, and I love the idea, of course. By the way, this is very coincidental. Today is also Global Training Center's anniversary. Yay. My wife and I formally took over Global Training Center on 8/8/08. So a bunch of eights.
That's awesome.
It's their 17th year as full owners. But of course, the Global Training Center has been around for 34 years, I guess, or something like that. So anyway, but yeah, so formally, we took it over in 8/8/08. So we felt it was a lucky day because we had a bunch of eights in the date. So anyway, thank you. Yeah. So we now celebrate an anniversary together. And I'll always remember that. So
absolutely.
Thanks, Christy.
That's awesome.
But actually, I guess what I kind of wanted to just pivot and go into is just talking more about, I guess, the trade situation. I always like seeing women in elevated positions like yourself, with running companies and being able to just like show and teach and just help or lead the trade industry. Of course, my wife being the president and, head of Global Training Center. I see that. I really love that. I see my daughter, trying to get ahead. She's just starting her career, of course, and so I really like that. So maybe we'll start there. Like, what do you see in women in trade? What do you see in that? I'm assuming you've been asked a lot to come on shows like this or speak at conferences and all that, as it's related to being a female in trade, or maybe just in business in general. So can we start with that?
We sure can. I think it's. I love it. I love. I'm very proud as a woman to be in a leadership position, both within my company, within my national, within NCBFAA. As well as other, organizations within Louisiana. And I think why I appreciate it is too, because I can look back at a particular time, even when, with when my dad was running the company, it was, back in the late 80s and early 90s, we'd go to work for him in the summer, and there were still certain clubs and organizations where, like, even as a girl or a woman, like, you weren't allowed into, so I think that always sits very, close to my heart when I look at where I'm at now, the meetings I'm involved in, the leadership position that I'm in, and the fact that it wasn't even, 40 years ago where women weren't allowed in certain trade and transportation clubs. And now to be at this point where, especially within NCBFAA, where you look at that, at the board of directors, you look at, the leadership team, and to see so many women up there, makes me very proud and happy. And at the same time, too, I think I attribute a lot to my dad, because when I started out in the industry, and especially as I was working my way up, my dad has always been my dad is a huge girl dad. He's a strong, he is incredible supporter of women in the workplace. And he definitely passed that on to me. And, I think one of my first pieces of advice as I was getting into management and especially getting out more with customers and vendors, et cetera. And, his advice was always to me is, don't let anybody give you any grief because you're a girl. Like you deserve to be where you're at, and, and just keep working hard. So I take that to heart every day. And again, love seeing women crushing it in the industry right now. It's fantastic, especially within our circle. But even then, like when you move out of the forwarding and brokerage aspect within, carriers and trucking companies, you're seeing women at the top there too, which is awesome.
Yeah, we've had a few ladies on our show that we met like at TPM, which you probably know what TPM is, the Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference. I mean, and that is like being there. You see and meet just about anybody in the industry that is wanting to be represented there or find services there. And we met so many of the ladies out there that. And here's the thing, it's like so humble. Y'all are so humble. It's crazy. It's like you're not, what's the word I'm trying to use? You're not asking or demanding respect. It's like you earned it. Everybody already knows it, but it's not like you're like saying, I'm entitled to it. You know what I mean? And then I feel like that is amazing. I appreciate that a lot as well. It's so awesome to see in the industry. So, well, congratulations on all that. I really like that fact. So let's talk a little bit more about what's going on, these days. And again, maybe not necessarily break down the laws, rules, and regulations, how it's going to affect you or anything, but more on the what are you seeing on the brokerage and forwarding or transportation side. What are you seeing as being like the biggest worries that people have these days? Anything that as a service provider, what do you feel that people are looking at, and how do you think they can just kind of address it or just move on without having to go through a all-out panic attack, I guess, and worry that their business is going to close, especially for small businesses?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's when people ask me, like, how is the current, tariff policy or trade policy and tariff implementation affecting, customers. JW Allen, we're very fortunate that we have a few large Fortune 500 company as customers, but we also have an incredible amount of amazing small to medium sized importers and exporters as companies. And it's, and I would say depending on the size of the company is also depending on what their strategy has turned into. Not everyone's a Target or a Walmart where you can, absorb, 10%, 15%, 50%. And then just sort of, take it on the chin against your earnings. These are, real-time business decisions that a lot of small to medium-sized importers and importers especially are having to make on a daily basis. I think from them, it's, we've seen some more, not necessarily strategic sourcing, but strategic shipping. Like when are goods coming in, looking at what some of the, trade, what frameworks or agreements are coming into effect. Customers are actively monitoring, the amount of time you have the window to get freight in before your additional duties are due. Same thing as well with, we have customers now that are actively aware of what a foreign trade zone is in a bonded warehouse. So, and which one to use when, or which one, and at the same time, it feels like a bit like Vegas, like, you're hedging your bets on whether your tariffs are going up or going down, depending on which one of those you're going into. But it's been, I would say like there's been anything actionable yet, because it seems like, even from my perspective, and that's, it's the same thing with our customers, is I think we're trying to figure out where all this is going to settle, which is where no one knows yet. I feel like right now we're sort of dancing through the minefield of getting to, something that's through that's going to be normal-ish, and have some predictability and reliability and stability. But right now we're just sort of, again, like tiptoeing through this field, and trying to get through it intact, to wherever that settles at, and I think that's been one of the frustrating things, I think, as in our space, because, we're considered experts. We're considered, we're supposed to have all the answers. We're supposed to be giving advice and guidance. And so sometimes, when these agreements and things or EOs and, are coming out so rapid fire, one, we don't have full guidance yet. We don't have the time to fully, stop and understand. And so, you have customers calling, and normally it's, you pride yourself, at least, a year ago, you prided yourself on the fact that if your customer called you up, you're going to have an answer either on the phone then, or, are you going to, talk to somebody in house, and within the business day, you're going to have something back from them. And now to kind of do that, like the shrugging shoulders emoji, to our customers is a bit frustrating. Because we just don't have answers. And sometimes, and we just don't, I think the only thing that's saving all of our sanity right now is, we're all sort of on that phone a friend network of, you call your fellow buddy broker, where you're like, what do you do in this situation? Like, well, I don't know what to do either. So it's like, there's a comfort in the chaos of, at least, others are just as confused and lost as we are. That oddly makes me feel better on some days, especially days like today.
Yeah, today was, I guess, being August the 8th, and everything, a lot of the major or most impactful announcements having come down yesterday, August 7th, was pretty crazy. And it's like you said, it's just that you just don't know. Normally, under normal circumstances, let's call that, right? And you being an NCBFAA, you know that very well. But under normal circumstances, there would be an announcement for a trade policy change. And, you wait the normal 30, 60 days, whatever it might be. And then it goes through, and it gets, worked out and implemented. And, it's not off of a tweet or a social post. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. And I think at the same time, too, I feel bad as practitioners in the broker space. I feel, good God, our programmers, like those are, God bless them right now, because it's the amount of, I don't even know, having 2 days, 2 to 3 days to implement, go from EO to FRN to CSMS to, having your software up to speed to be able to actually transmit data as it's being advised. That they're doing a heck of a lot of work, and there's no sort of end in sight either for them either.
I've been saying all along, almost ever since this all started, I kept on saying, those, I don't know how the ACE development team, over at Customs is finding a way to get 25, 26, 27 hours out of a day.
Yeah. And it's true. And it's like mentioning Customs, I think when we have a great team here with CBP in New Orleans. Terry Edwards is our port director. She's amazing. But even our conversations when we have our local association meetings with CBP here, they're as our government partners, they're struggling with the same implementation that we are, because it is so again, I think it's at this point we're all sort of rowing in the same boat, and we all just want to make sure nobody drops an oar over the side at this point.
Right. And so you said something earlier about how clients may now be discovering or finding the worth or the value of an FTZ and a bonded warehouse. I mean, that holds true for like USMCA, for example. I mean, where people never really care to declare USMCA because they were at zero duties anyway, for the importing. But nowadays it's like, okay, I am still at zero, but not with the additional tariffs, the added tariffs. I can go down to zero if I declare USMCA. So now it's a very valuable tool. What have you seen, or where have you seen your clients go with that route? I mean, have they? Not necessarily USMCA, but just in general, all the neat little, let's say, programs and tools that you could have used in your arsenal for trade, all of a sudden are now getting discovered. I mean, have you seen a lot of that lately?
Well, it is similar to you all on that, with going from, you had 0% MFN. So like, why did you have to declare USMCA? We were, I don't know if you guys do art. So like art, we do a lot of antiques, bring those in. And when you bring in antiques, they come in, MFN 0% for artworks and paintings. And there's actually a ruling out there that is from Christie's, it is classified as information materials that you can classify artwork as. So that was one of the things that, we were never aware of before, because we always just use this. And then all of a sudden you're staring down whatever that reciprocal is, or whatever that tariff level. So, so I think customers are now digging a little bit deeper into their tariff. I think at the same time, too, we're cautioning a lot of our customers who are getting advice from overseas suppliers as well, too, about, there's legal tariff engineering and there's illegal. So, we always, it's also being an educator at the same time, that, this is customs business. This is, essentially, you are supplying revenue to the U.S. government with those duties. So make sure that, the ones you are picking are the legal and correct ones, and not being influenced by foreign suppliers. I think larger importers are aware of it. It's your smaller ones where it's, I tell people all the time, a lot of U.S., especially small to medium sized businesses, don't identify themselves as importers or exporters. They identify themselves as, a Mardi Gras bead distribution wholesaler. You know what I mean? Like they don't say I'm an importer of X. No, they supply, Mardi Gras here in New Orleans. So when you look at those things, it's having to do then that re-education into them. Like, no, like you are an importer. Like this is, you are, again, there is, you can legally look at your tariff, like, look at what you can do differently. Look at how you might be able to reclassify something, or, change your manufacturing process to get you into another, HTS. But again, I always say, there's being creative and there's also being fraudulent. And we want to make sure that, any decisions that our customers are doing, they're doing it by being well-informed as to the right and correct way to do it. Reasonable care, make sure they're adhering to those standards as to which customs expects them to.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let me shift now a little bit more into your work at NCBFAA, and not necessarily your work there. Well, we can talk about that as well. But in general, NCBFAA is considered or does a lot of lobbying for the industry, which is amazing because, I mean, they're a very strong voice there in DC with Megan and the group that she puts together, and all the different committees that meet with Congress and Senate folks, and of course just any other entity that might be listening or wanting to listen in, and like all the partner government agencies, et cetera. So let me ask you a little bit about that. So recently, a lot of the questions and a lot of the confusion has been, like, for example, with transshipment, what is considered a substantial transformation, all this, what is the actual definition of that? I don't need you to tell me or go through the legal ramifications of that or how things may go about, but how would like the NCBFAA get involved in trying to just help or work that?
Well, I think specifically when you look at, in transit or transshipment, I think the really thing that's interesting right now is these are a lot of, terms that are commercially accepted, have been used a certain way for a while, terms that have been built into, trade agreements that mean a certain thing. And now we're seeing them and we're kind of questioning what these words mean, what they mean now. And we don't really have any answers for that right now. I think, as we specifically, like when you talk about, transshipment, like when they talked about the Vietnam framework, we still don't have any input into what that means. I think we might know what it means, whether it's, are they going to start taking an analysis of the amount of foreign components, maybe into things that are manufactured in these other countries. But again, we don't have any feedback yet. But as we see these frameworks roll out, or the, fact sheets, et cetera, it's, we sort of have but we have a list of, these questions that we would like to pose to, to customs when it comes out in the form of CSMS, when they do come out. But I would also say in that vein, since January 20th, I would say NCBFAA has, our leadership has been in DC, probably more in the last 7 months than any other 7 months prior. We're definitely doing outreach to organizations before where, like earlier you mentioned, when traditionally would come out, you'd have a, discussion with customs, you'd have this comment period, and now we don't have that. So we're, actively working to, we meet with USTR, we meet with Department of Commerce, we meet with, we've met with Treasury, Homeland Security. And then really just trying to make sure we're forming those relationships and still making sure we're, talking to our friends at CBP and making sure, we're having those lines of communication open. So it's just been different in that aspect that, we have new words. We have old words being used in new ways. And then making sure we're positioning ourselves as to, how to inform our members, so that we can properly inform our clients as well too.
Right. I like how you all do although it's been more than Monday now. I mean, you all do normally, traditionally, it was literally only one a week, a Monday morning briefing, but it's been more like Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, Thursday evening and midnight. We get all those alerts from NCBFAA, which are pretty cool, that come out and give us those notifications. But and working with the group, we've partnered with NCBFAA with certain different things, and we're really happy to do that, and have had the privilege of attending like several annual conferences now, and of course GTE conferences as well, and we get to see kind of a little bit in the background all the neat programs and things that go on in behind the scenes that we kind of see in the forefront. Like, for example, I thought I saw you, maybe I'm wrong, for the North American Customs Brokers group, the one that Kiko formed with the Mexican group and the folks over in Canada. That's a real interesting. Can you talk a little bit about that, or is it like a top secret society?
No, it's not a top secret society. I must say, they, as vice president, they're nice enough to invite me to their group. So I feel like I'm with the cool kids. But no, we actually did NACBA, so North American Customs Brokers Alliance. Kiko really put that in motion, I would say, at least over 10 years ago.
Right.
And then over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, I don't know if it was, as we were looking for, USMCA renewal, and really just the increased scrutiny that Customs, even prior to this administration, has been putting on the northern and southern border. Trade facilitation, trade security, all this sort of thing. So we partner with CIFA and CSCB in Canada, and then CARM in Mexico. And we have, I believe it's 4 meetings a year, once at the CARM conference, at the Canadian conference, GAC, and the annual conference as well, too. But we actually did something really neat back in May. Was NACBA all flew into DC. So leadership from the Mexican Association, the Canadian Associations, and NCBFAA flew into DC. We went and met with the Canadian Embassy, Department of Commerce, USTR, and again, trying to trying to present that united front of all three of our, or all four of our associations, and then making sure we're letting our partners up in DC know that, you have this group here available to help and give that guidance, especially given the amount of, of freight and, import and export clearances that collective group represents. Because I think what we all fear is when administrations from whatever it is, from whatever side is putting policy through just from an administration mindset on. And we want to make sure that we are presenting ourselves and making ourselves available to them to provide that knowledge base, that guidance, the operational, how things actually move, how those border crossings actually happen. And it's been great. It's been a good tool for us to get our government partners engaged with us from all three different countries. So we're really excited about it, especially as we come up on USMCA renewal, especially as we come upon all these things, with the, our ape of fentanyl and, what do you, whether or not you get your exclusion based off on USMCA. So I think that group is doing great work. Again, Kiko leads it, and it's going to be a valuable tool not only for us as an association and mutual associations, but I think it's going to be very beneficial to our government partners as we're trying to implement what trade is going to look like in the very near future.
Yeah, I think Kiko was telling me how proud or glad that he is that group has strengthened even now with, I guess, just the perception, I guess, that you get of folks from Canada and not so much Mexico, but mostly Canada that are just not happy with the USA right now, that with all the tariffs and everything. And, but he's, he made it very clear or very clear that, the brokers over in Canada and the brokers over in Mexico are more than glad and even anxious to collaborate and meet and talk with their counterparts in the U.S. so that we can. I mean, there's not going to be a solution via that route. In other words, like there's no way that they can go and influence well, maybe, but I mean it can't change tariff policy just like that, right? But I do like how you all are meeting and helping each other. It's like you said earlier, phone a friend, right? There's your friend. somebody's wanting to import something into Mexico, and you just can't figure it out. Well, then phone a friend over there, right? And you'll have that ability. Well, let me see. I guess anything else that you feel we're reaching about towards a 30-minute mark here, and I'm just kind of curious if you might have any other clear takeaways, anything I might have missed. I mean, I know I have a bunch of notes here, and I thought I might have gone through a lot of them, but anything that you feel is worth noting here coming up?
No, I think it's, if anything, from me personally to me as, representative of NCBFAA, I think it's this, the last 7 months have shown us that we're all a lot stronger together, so it's been great to see the amount of collaboration between, whether it's between NACPA, between us ourselves as a customs brokerage community. The collaboration that we have with our clients right now, I would say is pretty unprecedented. And then at the same time too, with our government partners, and I give a lot of credit to them because it's a different time in DC right now. So I give, a lot of kudos to everyone at CBP, USTR, Department of Commerce, Treasury, Homeland Security, everyone we've met with, for allowing us to still come and speak to them and engage. And listen to us. And we know we're not always going to get the changes that we want or the clarifications that we want right away. But what we don't ever want to have is to not have an open door. So we continue to work hard on making sure those doors are open and that we have the ability to communicate openly between each other. And again, we have a great team, as you mentioned before, in DC. We have Nicole Bivens Collinson from Sandler Travis Rosenberg as our legislative counsel. She's been doing fantastic work on the Hill for us. our customs committee, not Randy, I'm combining their names now, Sandy and Ralph and Lenny. Megan, our executive director, it is, like you mentioned, we used to have a sort of a Monday morning e-briefing go out at 7 a.m. on Monday mornings. And now it's, now you're getting briefings all weekend long. So everybody's working really, really hard, and just want to make sure that's acknowledged. And again, everybody there is doing a lot of work. Chris Gillis from our communications team. It's been fantastic. And again, we're just sort of, buckling in and riding this ride and making sure we all get out with our sanity intact and businesses in place. So I think that's what we're all looking forward to.
And I guess to take away or steal that political movement that Megan is trying to
Yes,
start.
I know. I should be wearing my button. Yes, make trade boring again. It is.
No, I should have worn mine too.
I know it is fantastic. I had it on I had a blazer on earlier, but I'm speaking next week at a conference. I'm wearing it proud. I'm giving it out. So I met with a staffer yesterday who was in town on break visiting Louisiana, and I gave him a button as well. I was like, just keep this close to heart. We just want this. We want to go back to being boring, where nobody knows who we were or what we did. And nobody talked about tariffs. So
exactly. Yeah. We started our own. I didn't know that Megan was doing that, but we normally have like a different, we like to have stickers, as you can see, for our stuff. And then we did one for the GTE conference. And I don't know if this will zoom in or focus in. No. It's not. Anyway, it says I was in trade when trade wasn't cool. So
I love it. Y'all have to mass print those for the annual conference, and y'all can use those as like a teaser to get people to talk to y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I would put that on my forehead right now.
Yeah, we took that from the Barbara Mandrell song, but anyway, well, thank you, Christy. This was a really nice conversation. As y'all can see, Andy never made it in, but it's okay. And but again, thank you for joining us here and talking to us about just everything in general. Actually, we covered quite a bit, which is pretty cool. And if anybody does need to or would like to reach out to Christy, I'm going to put her LinkedIn information on the show notes. We'll put her website as well in case y'all want to go and visit or talk to her business, JW Allen. And I guess that's it for now. But I guess a lot of really neat things coming up here in the future for NCBFAA. I know the GAC conference is coming up. And
we're sold out.
Yeah, I know, totally sold out. And also, I think I saw, or was I wrong, that I saw that annual conferences registration is coming up?
That should be opening soon, yes. And that's going to be, absolutely. Early April at the JW Marriott in the San Antonio Hill Country. So we're looking forward to getting out there.
And if anybody has not been there, I've stayed there before. It's an amazing resort.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's just me my first time too.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. We've stayed there, and it's a really nice resort. So anyway, well, looking forward to seeing you over there as well. And if not, maybe even earlier. And I know we have some things planned for the NCBFAA and the podcast as well for year end and wrap up stuff. But other than that, thank you, Christy, for joining me and just talking trade.
All right, thank you, Lalo. Thank you for letting me be one of the cool kids on the Simply Trade podcast nowadays.
Sure. Y'all are always the cool kids. I tell people I don't even know how in the heck I'm getting to talk to all these really fun people. I'm so happy I started the podcast because of that. Otherwise it would have been just someone I see at the conference instead of talk to at the conferences. But thank you so much.
All right, Lalo. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.